Have you always wanted a dash cam but been too afraid to install it? Well, follow along with this video because I'm going to show you exactly how to install it. This is the Vantrue N4 Dash Cam that is currently hardwired into the car. So it also has a Sentry mode, so it basically turns my FK8 Honda Civic Type R into a Tesla model Type R. Boom. The kit that I purchased is the Vantrue N4 3-channel dash cam. Now it has a bunch of specs. I will just post them somewhere on the screen. I will put a little screenshot or something of the ad. They are currently on sale for about, I believe, almost $200, which is really cheap. And then additionally to that, I purchased the HARDWIRE kit, which essentially should enable something like Tesla's Sentry mode, where as soon as this picks up any kind of movement, the dash cam is hardwired, so it has power at all times, and it will get a little recording of what's going on. First thing I want to do is select a good position for the front. The nice thing is, since it is on a suction cup mount, it can always be remounted differently. But for me, because the Type R's windshield is relatively narrow, or not very tall, I guess is the best way to say it, there's not a whole lot of room. I can put it further forward up here, but it's going to block my vision a lot. So what I do want to do is kind of just mount it right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the mounting base and the camera, and they're going to snap together like this. There we go. When it clicks, you know it's secured. Then you can take the piece off right here. Make sure that your hands are clean, because if you get any oils on there, it's going to compromise the stick chin of it. And then when you're ready to mount it, you're going to kind of suction it onto the window. Make sure your window is as clean as you can possibly get it. And then you're going to suction it up against the window, and then you're going to twist this piece right here. And that's going to lock the suction cup into place. You can see how it kind of pulls the suction cup center down, and that just creates the suction for it to stick. The higher you can mount this, the more of a viewing field you're going to get with this camera. And later on we'll fine tune it a little bit to be a good viewing angle. And again, if this doesn't work, I can go ahead and still move it up here. That's where most people have it. But since I have a pretty large rear view mirror, I don't really want to block it. And then from the outside too, since I will be going to a couple of shows and such, I don't really want the camera being the focal point of it. I want people to be able to see the mirror as well, because it has this nice, you know, it's nice carbon fiber mirror, and obviously I want to show that off. Now would be an okay time to peel these kind of covers off right here. So right now I have it plugged in just to the car outlet, just to see if I like the angle. And you can kind of adjust it a little bit just by moving it, and then this piece adjusts up and down by twisting, and you can see that view up in the top left corner. So you want to make sure that you have both the drivers in that, and then in the front you have a good view. It being a little bit higher up on the car helps kind of avoid the hood and everything else in between. So this should be a really good angle to be able to see everything in front of us. So the next step is going to be running the wire to the back, and then hooking up the rear view camera, and then adjusting that to the view that I want. And then we can go and hardwire everything in once we know that we like everything. On the back hatch, the same theory applies. You want to make sure that your windshield is nice and clean. Then you can take the adhesive backing off and attach it in a way that the camera can face outwards. I'm just going to lightly attach it for now, because I want to use the viewfinder to make sure this is where I want the camera to be. So now again, what you can do is you can take the cable before you run it all the way across, and actually plug it in first and make sure it's what you want. I wouldn't recommend putting this camera on the outside of the car, just because of the Type-C connection right here. Doesn't look super watertight. And you're going to run the cable forward. Now you can grab that other end of the USB cable and make sure that that angle works for you. And in the settings, you can actually go ahead and rotate the rear camera to be the correct side up. Now that we've checked all the views and we like them, we can go ahead and hardwire the kit in. It's actually the next day, so it is bright out now. But here's how I'm routing the cable from the rear camera to the front. So I have it just popped out underneath this little ledge right here. And obviously we can clean this up later on and actually like cut a little ridge in here or something for it to come out of. But it's basically running down into here, it's running across, and then it's coming out right here. And the reason I did that is because there's a little pass through right here, and you can just pop this up by pulling it, and that gives you access. Now, right in here, if you look through, and then there's a hole underneath there that goes right to the headliner. So if you can just push most of that cable through, and I just pushed almost all of it through, and then I was actually able to, on the other side in here, if you pop the headliner down, and you do that by pulling the door molding down, and it's real easy, it's not glued or anything, so that all just comes out and it pinches basically the headliner and the door frame. So once you get that, you can shine a light in there, and if you can reach underneath the airbag, you can pull through the cable. So I've got the cable running through here. That's basically going to get tucked up underneath the headliner here, and then you can go around and you can go through this little top portion right here of the B pillar, and if you can pull that back and push the cable through, you can come around to the front end where you can peel this back, and then you can grab the cable out of there. From here on, you can tuck that up into the headliner as well, and then I'm gonna push that basically under the headliner through, and then run it across the headliner up here over to the front camera where it needs to get plugged in, and then we'll run back from that way with the cable from the camera. That'll go down this way through the A pillar, down here into the fuse box where we'll be hooking it up. There it goes, and I'll show you on the inside real quick. Here's what that piece looks like once it comes off. And then it's just a Phillips head screwdriver to take that off. Here's that Phillips head screw. I would set that to the side somewhere where you don't lose it. And then I try not to ever rest any tools on the seats, just because those are red and you'll taint them if you put stuff on them. Anyways, you're gonna grab the A pillar now that you have that removed, and you can kind of grab and pull like that, and it will come right out. This end basically up and over the airbag, and this is something that is kind of important. I would want to run this over, not under, just in case the airbag ever does have to deploy, that you don't have a cable in the way and it's going to rip all your stuff out there. It's just going to explode essentially underneath the cable. So once you get the cable through, you can then route it up and through. If you're hardwiring it into a Honda Civic Type R, you're going to want to use these smaller connectors right here. One of them is going to be the always on, which is this guy right here, and then you're going to have an accessory. The always on is going to get wired into the keyless entry system, and the accessory mode, well, there's an accessory fuse. So we'll hook it into that. And then you have your ground, which will just hook up to a existing ground screw that's already there. So basically we're going to be feeding the cable from the controller box up through the dash, and then up the A pillar into the dash cam. This has a nifty little switch on here, and this essentially just protects your battery from going or from the battery voltage dropping too low. Now you can switch it to 12 volts and 24 volts, or 11.6 and 23.2 volts, meaning when the car is idling, or sorry, when the car is off, that means that the battery voltage will not drop below 12 volts before the dash cam turns off. So that way you always maintain a charge, and you can start your car when you get back to it if you leave it there for a bit. So here's a nice trick for the rear camera. Once you have it routed in here, actually what I did is I pulled that cable back out because I wanted a cleaner solution for the grommet over here. So what I did is I poked a hole, or I used a razor blade to cut a couple of slits in here and then push the USB cable through here. That way this stays watertight. Now obviously if you hit this with a pressure washer, there would probably be some water that comes in, but this is really, really tight. So I really doubt there's gonna be any water jumping from running down this way, jumping up and getting in there. Tied it to the pre-existing harness, little protection here, and then I ran it into the garnish here and then ran it across and up to the camera. So that is all for the rear camera. Nice thing is because of the tint, you really can't see the camera at all unless you're looking. Over here, I've already put back the molding and everything, and you can see there is no way of seeing any of the wiring, which is awesome. And then over here, I still have this down. And here's some of the cable, you can kind of see it. I've ran it up into the headliner, and then the headliner will close all that off again. And then I've pulled the headliner down a little bit further in the front door frame. And what this allows me to do is run the harness for the HARDWIRE kit up through the side here, and it's actually running up through behind here, and it's going up into the A-pillar. Let me see if I can show you this. And then it's coming out over here, and I'm wrapping it up behind the airbag again so that it doesn't snag if the airbag ever does go off. It goes up into the headliner here and across, and then it's plugged in over there in the camera. So the last thing we have to do now is put the A-pillar back on, run the cables, maybe zip tie them down here a little bit, and then plug in the fuses, and I'll show you where I did that. For the ground cable, what you're gonna do is you're gonna come to the left side of your steering wheel. Right down here is this panel right here. What you can do is get a little panel popper underneath it and pull, and it'll come right out. And that'll give you access to this little bolt right here above the fuse box. And that should be a good ground for you to hook up to. So that's basically back that out with a 10mm, just a little bit, and then sandwich the ground cable. There's a little hook there. You're gonna hook that underneath and then tighten that back down. Now for the fuses are actually the out of fuses are going to be in the correct location already if you hook the ground up there. And then you can see down here, right where the where your left foot would be, is a little diagram. You're going to look for accessory. That's what your yellow cable is going to go to. This guy right here at the top, you can see it's yellow. And then the red one is your constant power. And that one, from what I understand, is going to be your smart entry. That's your fourth fuse over at the top. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna look up from there, and you're gonna see the fuse box right there. You're gonna go to the top row, fourth one in, that 10 amp fuse, you're gonna pull that and replace it with the added fuse, and then same thing, bottom left corner, that 10 amp one, you're gonna pull that and replace it. All right, correction here. I told you guys to use these added fuses right here. These are the incorrect ones. You're gonna wanna grab these ones right here, because they match the fuse style correctly. They're a little bit wider and look like that. These are the ones you want to use. So you're simply going to take the fuse you pulled, that 10 amp, and insert it into the added fuse in the open slot. And then this guy goes right back in where it came from. So let me show you now that it's on. We can put the SD card in. We can format the card. There's everything for now. So what you can do now is you can go in and you can cycle through the different views by clicking the second to the right button. I believe this is currently dark because it thinks it is nighttime in the garage. This is the rear camera, and you can see a lot. I was actually really worried about the wing, but you can see quite a bit behind that. Let me show you how to turn on parking mode real quick, because that is going to be important as well. So parking mode, you're going to go over here, second button from, or actually very first button on the left, gets you into your, gets you into the menu. Then you can go ahead and cycle through these, but you're going to want to look for record setup. You're going to click OK, which is the second button from the left. And then you're going to cycle through these, and you're gonna find the button that says parking mode, and you can only use this if you have it hardwired. You're gonna hit OK, OK again, and then you can select here collision detection, and collision detection, just motion detection, low bit rates, or low frame rate mode. Now I want collision detection and motion detection, so I'm gonna hit OK. And then you can set the sensitivity. We're just gonna keep it at medium. And what that allows it to do is that when you now turn the car off, it enters what is essentially a sentry mode. And it will record only if it detects some kind of motion. This should draw very little electricity, and if it does draw too much, then it will actually shut itself off because it has that little controller in the harness. All right, so now we can clean up the last bits of wiring that we have here. Basically, I'm just gonna stick the little controller box somewhere on the car and tuck that up, and then the install is finished. Overall, super simple install. It does seem convoluted, but it's actually really easy, and if I had to do this again for somebody, it would probably take me 30 minutes tops. Because I was doing it for the first time, this took about an hour and a half of total of work, but that's also me just standing there staring at things and trying to figure out what to do. So there you go, super simple, super happy with it, and it adds some safety to the car. And obviously if people see this camera, and especially if the lights are on or anything, then that will deter people hopefully from messing with the car.